Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 126 of Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we're going to make embedded paper, tissue paper, and napkin paper. And so basically what we're going to do is we are just going to sandwich some things between some tissue paper and some napkin paper. And what that does is it just gives you a really cool look, makes the tissue paper or the napkin paper much stronger, and just gives you something that's really cool, and it's all your own. First thing we're going to do is get some things ready to embed between our pieces. And what I have here is this is just a feather. We got this feather boa quite a long time ago, and so I dyed this feather purple and this one blue. And I wanted to show you when you dye the feathers, when they're flat feathers, when they're the flat part like this, they come out pretty nicely. But the really, really fuzzy one, the one that's right next to the body that has the down in it, that gets very messy and it looks awful. You'll dye it and you'll say, what the heck am I going to do with that? But all you do is you just take your, take a comb, and I saved the worst one. This was the easiest one, but I saved the worst one so that you could kind of see how long it, how long it takes and how to do it. What I kind of start to do is I kind of try and, I'm going to flip it over because I think I can get a hold of the feather bits better on this side. I just kind of like separate it out with just the tip of a comb, just to kind of get it a little bit separated. And then I like to use a fine tooth comb, and then you just comb it. You can't really hurt it. Little bits may fall off or whatever, but it's just a fluffy feather. Now I actually broke this one in half, which is okay because I was going to rip it in half there anyways. And I'm going to rip the blue one in half too. And I'll show you why in just a second. But you just kind of go back and forth, sideways and straight down. That gets everything kind of separated and opened up. If you get a bit that's just so fine and it won't come unstuck from each other and you don't like the looks of it, you just pull it off. Like if this piece right here would not get untangled and it looked yucky, just pull it off of there. But there's that one. And the reason that I said I was going to break that anyways, and I'm going to break the blue one too, is the spine of the feather here is broken right there. And I don't usually like the looks of that. So usually if the spine is broken, I just pull it apart right at that spot. And then I just have two pieces to play with instead of one. But I don't know why, but I don't like it where the spine is broken like that. So I'm just going to, and this spine is broken again at the one end, so I'll pull that apart in just a minute. And then they get very staticky after you comb them. So if you don't, I kind of like the staticky because I like it to just kind of go where it wants to go. But if you don't like that, see, look, isn't that fun? If you don't like that, then what you can do is you can brush it over with a dryer sheet on each side, and that will take a whole lot of that static away. So I have this one little piece right here that's kind of bad, and that's right where the break is. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that off for time's sake, and we're just going to set that aside. I'll do something with it later. But there we go. So now we have some feathers to embed, and like I said, these were flat, so I didn't have to do anything to them except for dye them. I have a purple one and a blue one of those too. So we have some feathers, and then some other things that we can do. And I dyed these feathers with the alcohol inks that we made way back earlier in the series. And all I did was I just dropped a couple feathers in there, put a couple, well, with the blue, way more than a couple, because it came out really fast. But just put a little bit of your alcohol ink in there, and then just stir it around with a skewer. And I did the same with the purple. And I did it also with some sand, the white sand that we picked up from last week. I did the same thing. I put some sand in a little bowl, stirred it around, and then I dumped it out on some paper to dry. Now the reason that I use the alcohol ink and not our other colors is because we're going to use our water glue. So I don't want to use anything that's water reactive that's going to run into my paper. And this should not, because this is alcohol based or solvent based, this should not really run into our paper. And if it does, it shouldn't do it much at all. Where a water based will just completely spread out and color your paper. Now you might want that look. You may want the texture of the sand and everything, but you may want those colors to run. Then just use watercolor, a water-based ink like our sprays. So, but And then the one thing that I wanted to tell you is alcohol-based products. When you mix them, I put them in there and I mixed them up, and I went from the blue to the purple, which the purple is much lighter. And I left it on the feather because I kind of wanted you, I don't know if you can see or not, but see the blue in there? This is completely dry. But if I touch this to anything that has alcohol in it, like my purple alcohol ink, what happens is the color will just start soaking right out of here. So the blue will soak right out into and color whatever you're trying to color with the other color. So make sure that you use a different skewer or whatever your stir stick is, or if it's plastic, wipe it off good so that you don't contaminate your colors together. Alcohol will only react with alcohol or with solvents. So that's all you have to worry about, is if you're trying to mix an alcohol color and then mix another alcohol color. This is just one of the strings that we dyed way back earlier. Way back earlier. All I did was I just painted some string from the Dollar Tree. But I am going to just separate this into little pieces. If I can get it to separate. I think I've got it way too long. Because you want whatever you're going to embed, you want it to be kind of thin. And kind of like, wispy and fun, not just a really like heavy piece of string. That's not so fun, but these are kind of curly when you unwind them, like taking out a braid. And so, it just makes them kind of fun to play with. Now these two are kind of still wrapped together, and I'm going to leave them that way because it'll be just a little bit thicker. And maybe just separate this right here. And there we go. Okay, so now we have some string, we have some sand, we have some feathers. I haven't tried this before, but I thought maybe we would try and put in a couple of sequins. Now, the sequins to me would be they're pretty flat, but they're domed. So I think this would be about the thickest type thing you would want to put in there. You really can put anything in there. But I don't think that you want anything that's too big. Your water glue will take your tissue paper or your napkin and really form it right around whatever you put there. So if you want to try something thicker, go ahead. The paper will form around it. I just don't know how bulky it will be when you really try and use it. And then I just pulled out a little bit of our like eyelash trim or whatever you call this. So I thought that would be fun to put in there. And so there. So now we have a lot of things to just play with and see what we can come up with. And I'm going to kind of set them off to the side so that we can get our tissue paper ready. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use parchment paper. Now parchment paper is a non-stick baking paper. And so this will make it so that your glued tissue paper or your glued napkin won't stick. You might have to kind of peel it off, but it should come off okay. I just kind of put it with the rolled side down, just to kind of hold it down a bit. And we're not going to do anything huge here. Now this tissue paper has a shiny side and a matte side. I prefer tissue paper that's matte on both sides, but this is what I got. So I think what I will do is I will put the matte side to the outside. It's still going to wind up a little bit shiny because your glue is going to make it a little bit shiny. And the piece that is on the parchment will be shinier than the piece that's not. So we're just going to take this piece right here. I think I'm going to cut it in half again, so we'll just make a piece. This is about 5 by 7 or so. And then you just have your water glue. And water glue is just 2 parts PVA, which is like Elmer's glue, and 1 part water. And that is my favorite decoupage type glue. You can use Mod Podge or Decoupage or anything that you have that you like to use. I just really like to use water glue. So it's not as shiny. It doesn't have the smell to it. I don't really care for the smell of Mod Podge. And all I am doing, and I know that the white tissue paper is on the white parchment paper, so you can't really see it, but I am just gluing all over the paper, all over the tissue paper. Whoops. See, that's where it is. Did you see it fold up? Okay, so there we go. Glue everywhere. Now this glue is going to hold whatever we put down there in its place, and it's going to hold the next piece of paper to this piece of paper. So what we'll do is we'll just decide what we want to, let's try putting a feather in here. I think the feathers are going to be cool. I have not done this with feathers before, and I do it usually with string. I like it with string. But yeah, so most of these products I actually have not tried before, so we're going to be trying it together. And I'm going to, and you know, I don't really like this really big, the heavy part of this eyelash trim. So I think what I'm going to do is just trim the little frilly bits off and let them just fall where they may. I think that that will be kind of fun. I just like a real organic look. Now you can make it very structured. You know, you can make it symmetrical and put everything exactly where you want it. And, you know, and it looks pretty that way too. I just kind of really like, I like just the organic, like let it lie where it falls. Now I'm going to take this one because this is one of the straight type feathers. And then we've got the fluffy type, so we'll see how both of them look. Maybe put a little bit of this green in here as an accent color, because pretty much everything that we have is purple and blue. And then let's try a few of the sequins and see how they do. I will put the pink ones with the dome part facing down, and I will put the purple ones with the dome part facing up, so we can see how they work. Now to me, I would think that the dome facing up will work better because it's flatter on the bottom, and then you can use your brush to push the tissue paper down into the domed part. So we will see about that. Let's see how that works. Okay, that fell there, so that's where it wanted to go. And then the last thing that we have is our colored sand. Now the colored sand, you know, and I dumped it out on the paper after I mixed it in the bowl because I wanted to have it dry faster. Alcohol ink dries pretty fast, but when it's stuck in a plastic bowl like that and can't get air really well, it takes a while. So by dumping it on the paper soaked out a little bit of the color, and gave it a bigger surface area to dry, a bigger surface to the, you know, to the air. So there we go. Now we have that all done. Now we can't really put glue on top of that, so you have two choices. If you use a napkin, I never pick up a napkin, but tissue paper nowadays is fairly strong. You can glue the tissue paper, pick it up, and lay it down on top of that, or you can just lay it down on top of that. I'm going to glue the tissue paper because there's so much there. I really kind of want to glue it down. And the glue doesn't soak through the tissue paper as much as it does a napkin. If I was going to put the white part of a napkin on top of that, then I would just put it on there and put the glue on top. And I think that it would soak through fairly well and would not be a problem. Now, I'm just gluing this. I know that I'm off camera a little bit, but my surface area here is not super huge, so I just want to make sure that I get glue everywhere. So that's going to be the underside. I'm going to flip the glue part over and lay it on top of there. Now, you know, it may not get like super even or whatever. When you're all done, you can cut it down to make it a little bit, you know, more square or whatever. Okay, so there we go. That worked pretty well, being able to pick it up and flip it over on there. Now, we're going to put glue on top of this page. We're going to kind of pat it a little bit. Now, this is tissue paper. Tissue paper does, especially since we have both sides are going to be wet now, you know, it will be a little bit where it could tear. Not as much as napkin. With napkin, I just kind of put the glue on and then go back and pat like this, and just kind of do it like once and stay away, because the napkin will start to rip. And you just don't want to have holes in here, even though if you get one, it just kind of adds to the texture, but I prefer not to have holes. And I'm going to really push down on those sequins. Really get into that feather so we can see the wispies. And finish painting the glue on this bottom part. And then I'm just going to go kind of over the whole thing and just kind of pat it in. Get the paper down around every edge of every little bit that we put in there. And then you're going to have to set it aside and let it dry. You can try drying it with your heat gun. I would probably set it aside for a little bit and let it dry some. You know, first, only for the fact of if you dry it with your heat gun, this is very wet. It's going to take a long time to dry it. It's, you know, it's not going to just take like a minute or two. It may take you like 5-10 minutes to get it to dry. So, but the thing is, you can set it aside and do another one. And then, you know, if it's not quite dry, when you get done making however many you want to make, then start with the first one. And what I would do, you know, because you've let it dry a little bit, before you dried it with your heat gun, is I would go find your corner and make sure that you have both pieces, because I just grabbed only the top piece right there. And because it will be a little dry, it should be easier. And then just kind of give it a lift. And a lot of times what I would do is I would give it a lift right off this page, set it on another piece of parchment, kind of smooth it all back together again in case it separated anywhere, and then dry it with the heat gun. So I'm gonna set this aside, and we'll do one with napkin. Now normally when I do napkin, I do tissue paper on the bottom, napkin on the top. And so I thought, but you know, that's a different, they're different textures. And so I thought, well, let's just try doing it with just a napkin. We'll have to be careful because the napkin is going to want to tear. And I definitely would not pick the napkin up to dry it, because it would kind of disintegrate if it was still pretty wet, you know, when you wanted to dry. So the napkin I would just dry like it was. And I had one here. Of course, we know I always have a hard time finding things. I have so much white. I have all this white tissue paper and white everything. Well, I have some napkins here. I'm going to open them up and grab the back off it. And this is a good project to use, those white napkin backs that you just don't know what to, you know, you don't want to throw them away, but you obviously have to separate them when you're making something. And so this just is a good way to use them up, or to use some of them anyways. So I'm just trying to separate a napkin here. I'll be right back with you. And I will tell you that normally the way I do it is I put a piece of regular Scotch tape on the back of the white, pull it off, it will rip the white part, and then you can separate them. But when I don't have Scotch tape with me, and I need to separate a napkin, I will tell you, I saw it on YouTube, but I could not tell you who taught how to do this because it was a long time ago. But what she did was she took the corner of the napkin, just the corner right here, left her lips, just basically dry or whatever, just don't lick your lips or anything. Just take it, stick your lips on that, and pull your lips apart, and it actually will pull that apart. So it's kind of a little bit, like odd that, you're going to put your mouth on it and then make a project out of it. But, it's covered with glue and everything else. And, when worse comes to worse, that's what I do, because this one especially is really stuck together. Trying to peel apart 2 napkins without a trick is almost impossible. So that's just a trick that I learned on YouTube. You might be able to find that video, like if you search like how to separate napkins or something. But the Scotch tape part, that was Crafty Irina. I do remember that she taught the how to do the Scotch tape, and that really works the best. I mean, that's just awesome. So now I have my napkin here, and I was going to just leave it and try and fold it in half, but I don't think that would work very well. I want to be able to just lay it down on the top. All right, so we'll do kind of the same things, so that if I can find all the same things, so that we can compare them after they're dry. So the first thing I'm going to do is just paint the napkin. Now the napkin, I'm like paying attention to where I'm going so that I get the whole thing, because I don't want to go over and over the same spot. Now there is a little hole in this napkin from when I separated where it's stuck to the front, and that's totally fine. But I really would have to be careful there, because that spot will want to separate. Move this up just a little bit. But yeah, you just want to put one layer of glue on here and not go over it too much, because I think we're going to get 2 very different textures with these. And I think, now, like I said, I usually do it tissue paper on the bottom, white napkin on the top. Or if I don't have any white napkin pieces, I do tissue paper. I've never tried it this way, but being that the napkins are more cottony, I think that I'll like the feel better, because I like the feel of cotton. So let's just put some feathers on there. Oops. Grab some string. I don't think I put the string on the last one. Okay. And let's chop off some of these little hairs. I think that the finer whatever you put on here, the better it kind of fits together, and the more kind of organic it looks. It's not so like bold and in your face, I think. It's just kind of the way that I think about it, is that I'm looking for something kind of wispy. But that might not be the look you're going for. You may be going for a look that's just like, it matches what's in your book, and you want it to really stand out and show. Okay, and then let's put some of our sand on here. I can tell you the napkin is drying a lot quicker than the tissue paper did, and because I don't normally do the napkin layer first, it always goes on the top. So that's something that I'm just learning. Okay, so we've got some wispies, and some sequins. I think I have to get out a few more sequins. Let's see, how did we do that before? I think we did dome side up with the purple one, so I'm going to do it the same way as the other. And dome side down with the pink ones. Okay, grab a couple pink ones, and I think, so we've got our string, we've got our sand, we've got our feathers, and our sequins. Yep, this is everything that was on the other one. Yeah, the napkin is definitely getting very dry. Okay, now I am not going to put, like I said, I'm not going to put glue on this napkin. Before I set it down, because I wouldn't be able to pick it up and put it on there. So now we're just going to, and I'm going to work in sections so that I don't rip the napkin, hopefully. I'm going to just put the glue on and pat it down. Because the glue on the underside is more dry than on the tissue paper, it's not it's not patting down as well and sticking to the other side. So I'm going to have to put the glue on and give it a chance to soak in first before I try and pat it. But, and that's the thing, when you're doing things and you think, oh, well, I've done it this way, but I've never done it that way. I wonder how that would work. Give it a try, because you never know. You may find a new favorite way of doing something that you thought, the way you were doing it was just perfect. And then you try it another way and go, wow, that's easier, or that looks better, or I like the texture better. And that's what crafting is really all about. It's really about just having fun, trying different things, and spending time kind of losing yourself in what you're doing. Because crafting is a good way to take your mind off of things that are going on. And this little sequin was over here and not covered up by the second napkin, so it decided it wanted to go there, and I think I'll leave it there. We'll see how it sticks to the outside, because I don't normally do this with anything on the outside. And this napkin is holding up much better than I thought it would as far as brushing across it once it was wet. I ripped it right there. I really want to push it down around those sequins. And around the feathers. So there we go. Now we have it done napkin to napkin, and we have it done napkin to, or tissue paper to tissue paper. And I have one here. This one is napkin and tissue paper. Now the tissue paper was on the parchment, so it's shinier. The napkins, if you have the edging where they have texture, that will still pretty much show up. You can probably maybe try and push it out, but I think you'd rip it if you tried. Now see, this is one where, and this was a quick one I did, but the flowers, those are pretty dimensional. I mean, they are just, I just pulled apart a silk flower and took all the plastic bits off and then just laid them down on there flat. And then just some string. But, it's, the thing is that this makes this really sturdy. And so, it's just another something that you can do. You could, now see, this piece right here is too white for me. So I would stain this somehow. I would stain it with my alcohol inks. I would stain it with my liquid colors. I will color this white background. I'll color the whole thing. and see how it looks. Hopefully I like it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know, we'll see. And I think, excuse me, I think what I'll do is I will color one side, because that color is, you're going to be able to see it through on the other. I don't think I'll color both sides. And if you do it with something that's very watery, this is going to get sticky again because of the glue. If you get it real wet, you just have to let it dry. It's not a big deal. So this is one I did. This is tissue paper and napkin. So then we're going to see what napkin and tissue paper look like in just a few. I'll be right back when they're dry. Okay, I'm back and they're all dry. I did peel off this one is the tissue paper. And didn't that just turn out really cool? And it just has a great sound, and it would just look cool as a tuck spot, or folded inside of a journal. Use it to make tags. You can use it to make flowers. You can use it for whatever you want to, but I think it turned out really cool. So this is the tissue paper, and I peeled this off when it was so dry. It was easy enough to get a hold of the corner and peel it up, and then I dried it from both sides with the heat gun, and I did a combination of heat gun and just letting them air dry. So this one turned out really nice. On the back side, there's a little bit where the paper and the feather did not adhere as well, so it's a little bit white where the paper is not really glued to the feather. So I should have, when I put those on there, before I put the second layer on, I should have tapped those down really well to make sure they made contact with the back. The sequins turned out really good. The ones where we put the dome side up, where we could pat the tissue paper into the dome, worked out better than the others. These look really nice on the front side, but on the back side, the tissue paper did not go up into the dome to make contact. And even though I did try pushing that down when I turned it over to dry it, there was no glue. The glue was already dry on the paper pretty much, and no glue on the back of the sequin, so you have that white spot. So I would say if you're going to do sequins, put them dome side up, so that when you put the second layer on, you can use your paintbrush to tap the paper into the dome of the sequin. But I think that this just turned out really cool. I did not take the napkin off. I tried to take the napkin off when it was so dry, and it just ripped. It has to be dry to take it off. And I left it to dry because I haven't done this before. I peeled up this corner, and but you just have to be really careful when you're peeling it up, and you're going to want to make sure that it is 100% dry. So as it was drying, I also used the heat gun on it, and I heat gunned this side, and then I just picked up all of the paper and turned it over and did the heat gun on this side also to help it dry on the bottom side. So this took longer to dry because I couldn't get it off to dry the bottom side separately from the parchment. And you are definitely going to want to just make sure, because this one is just napkin, make sure that you release it carefully, because it's sticking a little bit, but it's not adhered at all. It's just sticking a little bit. So, I'm just running my hand to move the parchment paper back as I peel this off. That seems to be working really well. And there we go. So this is the back side then, or the bottom side. And again, the feathers I probably should have pushed in a little bit more when I set them down. And here is the front side. And you always get more color on the front side because you really did push this all together as you did it. But this turned out really cool too. It does have a different texture. I thought that I would like this even better, but I really think that I like the tissue paper better. I like the crinkliness of it, and just the 2 layers with the glue makes it nice and sturdy. This also, yep, this seems to be pretty sturdy. It's not, that's 1 layer. Well, now it's 2, but that's just the thin napkin. And so if you did this with just the napkin, it would rip. So it is sturdier. It does look pretty. Brightness wise, I think they came out about the same. I think everything shows through really well. So that is our embedded paper. And I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. And the reason that I did this was I love handmade paper, and I love the handmade paper that has the dried flowers in it. But I don't have the patience to make handmade paper. I have tried it before. It doesn't interest me. It just takes way too long. So that's kind of where, I'm always trying to make something that kind of looks like handmade paper. And that's where I kind of decided to do this, was because I wanted that, like that flower look where the dried flowers come up through the handmade paper, and you see a leaf here or there, or petals, or an actual flower, and I just think that looks cool. And so I had originally tried just gluing stuff to like tissue paper or paper. That doesn't really work. But embedding it between the two layers really makes it there. And when you bend the paper, which is my problem when I glued stuff just to paper, when you bent the paper, then a lot of the stuff that you had glued to the paper, it just wants to peel back, or it wants to catch on things or whatever. So so I really like the way that this looks, and maybe if you did a couple more layers, it would feel more like handmade paper. Because it would be thicker, because this is very thin, and handmade paper is usually really thick, but I do really like the looks of this. And so I hope that you enjoyed it too. Here was my original sample one, which was very sparse, and I'm not happy with that really, but I really do love both of these. So for next week, what we're going to need is a paper towel roll, and you could get away with a toilet paper roll, but really you need the length of the paper towel roll. So I would say try and get a hold of a paper towel roll, and then we are going to, if you don't have quite a few skewers left, we're going to pick up a package of skewers from the Dollar Tree for $1. And these are just little wooden skewers with the point on the end, and you do want the point on the end. And so this is what we're going to need for next week. We'll also need a bag of rice. So we're going to spend $2, $1 for the rice, which I haven't picked up yet, and $1 for the skewers, and a paper towel roll, some paint, some tissue paper, some chipboard, like a piece of cereal box or that type of thing. And that's what we'll need for next week. So thank you very much for stopping by. I hope that you like the embedded paper. I really like the way it turned out. And I really do appreciate you stopping by and giving me your time to watch my videos. Thanks again. And I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.